Education. Evening of August 8th, 2023. We will get started with opening the meeting and calling our wonderful teacher rep extraordinaire, Elena Castanon, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and our multitude of pledges that follow.
Thank you. All rise, please. Turn and face the flag. Right hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then continuing on with the mission statement. The mission statement is simply educational excellence, and our vision is our students will realize their full potential to thrive with integrity in a complex and changing world. The Beverly Hills Unified School District Community Pledge is as follows. The BHUSD community acknowledges that in order to achieve educational excellence, we must act with integrity and respect for each other and our learning environment. Therefore, I pledge to model civil behavior and respect in all communications and in public while maintaining a culture of honesty. Listen and acknowledge differences of opinion. Do my part to protect an inclusive culture in which we honor the relationship between all school community members and honor our learning environment, including how we take care of our schools and personal property. By holding ourselves and each other accountable to this pledge at all times, we will promote an environment of educational excellence that will allow our entire BHUSD community to thrive.
Thank you very much, Elena. Moving on, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Dr. Berge, a report of closed session.
Thank you, President Margot. There are 2 items to report out this evening. In closed session, the board approved the termination of employee NM7953230 by a vote of 3-1. Mr. Margot has recused himself from that vote. In addition, the board has voted 5-0 to approve the settlement for case number 528509. And that is all.
Thank you very much. As I stall and collect items from consent that we are going to put, I'll speak really slowly now.
Pulling anything from consent, Rochelle?
I have nothing to
Okay. Okay, item D.
You think we should talk about it, or you want to pull it from consent?
I'd like to
Okay.
pull it from consent.
Thank you.
That was from Andy's ears.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just C and D I have? Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus items C and D.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Wells. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Terrific. Motion carries. Let's go to item C.
I'll make a motion for approval of it's item D, yes?
No, C and D. We
Oh,
pulled.
sorry. Approval of LACO PBIS contract.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion made by Mrs. Wells and seconded by Mrs. Marcus. I actually pulled this because I wanted to dive into this PBIS issue. It's been 3 years now, I believe. PBIS has been enacted since
I believe it's
2020. Right?
5. There's our 3. 3rd year? Okay.
3.
That was longer.
3.5, because we had a half-year implementation.
I appreciated the staff, the questions that colleagues had asked and the research done on this question. In my gut, I have no want to continue down this path with LACO. I don't mind implementing systems, but I mind continuing to paying for systems. And that we've trained our teachers and we have people that have been working with it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it is ineffective or highly effective. I happen personally, I'll speak for myself, I believe that it is kind of neutral. I don't see any big changes in our district as far as student behavior, as far as student academic success, because of the implementation of PBIS. I do understand original purpose of it. I voted for the original purpose, but I don't think it's necessary to continue paying money to LACO to keep this going after the years of training and implementation that we have done as a district. So,
Can I respond to that?
you absolutely may.
Okay, I would like to just remind the board that the implementation cycle is approximately 5 to 7 years. We're in year 3, so we're not even fully implemented yet. So that's part of the reason why we're requesting to continue.
I think also, if I could add, Mrs. Collins-Williams, is that I think we were late to the game as far as doing the survey piece, and I think that we did this survey piece in the fall. We've reviewed those results, and I think that there are some good things in that survey. But I think that what we need to do is put more force into like what those results are, getting those results back out to staff, doing that kind of survey and getting that feedback from our students and our parents and our staff just on a more regular basis. Because I'd like to see over an entire school year what that is, and still waiting until the end of the school year. I think that we've got some really good information to set some benchmarks and some goals for this school year to see what that improvement is in then year 4 or 3.5 years. But I'd like to see more and share more data with you and with our staff and with our parents about where we are with PBIS.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Thank you both for your responses. I think as I've slowly watched over the years, different outside organizations take small pieces of our pie, yielding very little results. And usually I give things about 3 years to see if they're going to have some major effectual change, and I haven't seen any in from this. I know part of that is going to be put on COVID. At the implementation when it started, it was during that time, and I respect that. I think I think it's a drain on financial resources and staff time, this particular program, and without seeing the kind of movement that I expected to see 3 years later, my decision is based on that. And sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, this didn't work like we thought it would. And considering the issues that we've had at our schools, especially behavioral issues of late that we keep talking about, it hasn't affected change in those areas. So for that reason, I'm not going to support this, but I do appreciate all the information that has come forward, and I appreciate everybody's efforts in trying to make this work. Anybody?
I think there's a lot of really great benefits for PBIS. I'm not certain if the program in its entirety is meeting the expectations that everybody thought, but I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there's a lot of wonderful feedback that we hear from the students throughout the year, and even in the high school especially, talking about the PBIS and the different expectations that are being set. And I think it does create a focus on expectations, and I appreciate that. So I wouldn't say it's an all or none, but from looking at it from a resource standpoint, I think we should always be evaluating our programs and deciding if we want to move forward with them in its entirety. So I support what you're saying, Noah. Going forward, I think that as we learn about what the behavioral plans are going to be for the school and how that also weaves in with PBIS, I'd like to hear about that this year, and then really look at it this year and really evaluate it as we're going through the year to determine what changes we would want to make. And I think we should always be evaluating it. So I appreciate
Thank you, Mrs.
that.
Wells.
If I could just interject a little bit, 2 things I would like to put on the board's mind for consideration. The first thing is that we need to remember that PBIS is not a program, it's a framework. So, and within that framework, you are structuring your behavioral expectations. So it's not a program that we're implementing, it's a framework. And I need you to also remember that when we started our implementation right before COVID, we didn't have anything. So we're starting from the bottom. We weren't starting like where we had we were on level 2 or floor 2. We were in the basement, and we had to build the foundation first, and now we're building on that foundation. So remember, we're teaching the expected behaviors and setting the expectations for those behaviors. And the other piece, and this is where I think we haven't done as much as we can with discussing this, PBIS and discipline are related, but they're not the same thing.
Right.
And I think that was a misnomer or a misconception that started when we began implementing PBIS. And so we need to work more to clarify what is discipline, what is PBIS, and what are the things that connect them. And that can be part of our focus for this year.
And I would agree, and I think that from what I understand from the advisory committee meetings that you had, that was also clarified.
Yes.
And I also agree with you that we have to start with the framework and the expectations. It's in many ways not unlike setting our strategic plan and really having a plan and a framework so that we can start to measure ourselves and really stay
Yes.
focused on what it is and where we're trying to get to. So I agree. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and it takes time. We're not going to go from 0 to 1,000 in 1 year or even 2 years with COVID in between. But
we have done a good job with our
Right.
TFI, our Tiered Fidelity Index shows that our implementation is strong, but we still we're still growing. And still
Right. So I'm sure there's
moving.
many positive aspects to it. So I would suggest that as we look at the strategic plan as well, that we make some room in there to look at PBIS as part of that in the review that we do throughout the year. I would add it into our strategic planning sessions when we're reviewing how we're doing through the year and just having updates and really including that into our evaluation.
Yes.
I think that's a very good point to bring up.
And we've also had some discussion, Dr. Breggy and I, we started with the site-based expected behaviors. This year, now we need to move to district-wide expected behaviors so that we're connecting everything. And that's where we are. So we're starting now from what we've built and moving forward and moving up. So that also, I think, will help set the stage and allow us to delve in deeper and really take a look at the impact.
I would like to just say a couple words about the key word here for me is the word behavior. And this is something that I think in certain ways, I think we have done a good job. Probably the elementary school and the high school, I think we've made great strides. I can think that we've done as well with the middle school with the behavior. And I'm wondering, and I'm not, like as Mary said, I'm not willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater either. I think there's room for us to, that's where I feel that we have to really get our act together, because that's where we're falling short. I also, though, would like to think about the committee that we recently had going for 6 weeks and how they can tie into this PBIS and what their suggestions are and so on. And I would love to see them brought in and perhaps work with some of the PBIS directors at our schools with some of the ideas that have been, or whatever can be used, because I think it's really at the one school where I am very concerned. And
Can I also say, because I think what Mrs. Wells brought up about the strategic plan is really important, that we capture this information in the strategic plan. And so as a reminder as well, that we're adding chronic absenteeism and student behavior into the strategic plan. So as Mr. Margot had pointed out as well, that is a concern, and that's still a concern of ours. So that far and above the framework, which is a framework that what gets recognized gets repeated, and we want that to work its way through all of our grade levels. There is a different issue with a different way of measuring, is the student behavior piece, which was part of that panel. One of the recommendations that we're reviewing is that data piece, and so we've been spending a lot of time to make sure that we're able to measure that, as well as the PBIS framework we want to measure. We're also going to measure that behavior piece, and we will be able to share those results with the board as well.
Because the key word here is behavior.
Yes,
it is.
And I agree. I just want to piggyback on what Dr. Breggy just said. We've been spending a lot of time and effort looking at how we collect and analyze the data. And we will be able to have much better data going forward this year because we've recalibrated those processes and also the tools that we're using to collect them. And we're making it systematic across the district. So data is being collected the same way at Horace Mann that is being collected at the high school, et cetera. So now we're going to be able to compare apples to apples.
Anybody else? Please.
I think that the positive behavior intervention supports and plan is actually a really good framework. It is one that is, recognized in a lot of different schools, and it really, we've gone a long way in public education. It used to be, like in the 70s, you saw a paddle on the principal's wall. I mean, that was pretty commonplace. And, we've
Not just on the wall, Dr. Stern.
Oh, yeah? Just all over the place. Yeah, homes, right. So we've obviously, and some may not agree, but I think we've obviously moved in a good direction by getting away from that. But at the same time, we need an overall philosophy to kind of plot how we structure behavior and we bring about the most likelihood of positive behavior and reducing negative behavior. And the whole overarching philosophy of that is really in line with a lot of the things that we do. Yes. And it's not a very complex one, and it also does not supersede some of the more granular programs we do, such as the anti-bullying efforts, which are huge. Yes. We have our policies that we're constantly looking at and revisiting, such as this evening. But I think as a framework, it's a good one. It is simple enough that it can be generalized across schools, across campuses. And at this point, as we get further and further away from just, the paddle and things like that, we have ways that can craft behavior plans and look at positive reinforcers and things that really show to have lasting impact on kids. So I would stand behind PBIS as long as we continue to focus in on some of the sources of very bad behavior, such as the bullying and other matters. Thank you.
Right. And don't forget, we have an obligation as part of Ed Code to have other means of correction. And it's not only punitive responses to unwanted behavior or undesired behavior. So it's where this falls on the continuum of progressive discipline. Right. And again, I think you described it very well, Dr. Stern. It's kind of figuring out the mix of all the different ingredients and what applies when. Right. And that's honestly what we've been flushing out and figuring out. And, it took a little while for the dust to settle and for us to say, okay, here's where this is and here's where this is, but we have a really good foundation now to continue to build on.
I mean, I also like it too because it does allow for individualization among behavior plans across students. So, if you are to really apply certain tools that a lot of psychologists do, like functional behavior analysis, and you analyze, okay, well, is this student more likely to act up when they're alone, when they're not getting attention? And you can really tease out different variables, and then using PBIS, you can actually make behavior plans that really are scientifically, kind of use the scientific method of testing. So I think it's a good overarching. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I would still iterate that, as Mrs. Wells said, to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I preface my comments by saying it doesn't mean we have to stop doing it, but how much more do we have to invest? That's the question. And before we voted for this, I just would like to ask the question, is LACO going to provide us something over the next, whatever this is, buying us, that will greatly improve what we're already doing, or do we have all the tools already in place from the last 3 years of doing this and training and practicing and all that we can refine and continue without subscribing to something? Because not everything always has to be answered with money. In fact, what we'd like to do is be able to figure things out. That's what we want for our students. We want them to have the innate ability to learn and be able to figure things out and become innate learners, as opposed to having to continually, let's say, be tutored, right? So the same thing here, I would say. Can we as a district learn from what we've gathered the last 3 years, take the best of the program that we know will work for us, and continue on, refine it, whatever we have to do, without always having to subscribe financially to something?
So my response would be, I understand what you're saying, and I think we've learned a lot, but I would say not yet. We're making strides towards that, but we still need the coach. We're the players. We're learning our roles. We're learning what our responsibilities are in those roles. But we still need the support of seasoned experts who have experience working in numerous districts across the state of California to support the implementation of this type of framework, and then specifically drilling it down to what we're doing here in Beverly Hills Unified. So I understand what you're saying, and I think that it would be, I think we would cut short the support that we need. It's like the coaching cycle. We're moving there, but we're not quite ready for them to let go and take the training wheels off.
As well as the access to a suite of assessments like the one we just gave. And there's so many additional things that we can do to get a better idea of where we are with the framework and how people feel about the framework and how it's being implemented. That access to that suite, so that we can truly measure the program, was untapped before, that we're now tapping into.
Then you have to truly feel that in continuing the program that you are going to see significant changes in our district, because the end game is success for our students, right? And that's going to that's measurable.
Yes.
And the positive behavior system is perhaps a means to that end. But what, although you seem to have the support for it tonight, so I'm speaking as such, you have a lot riding on it. So
we do,
because
and
because
we're happy
putting
to
in
share that.
you're putting in a lot of time
Yep.
and resources to make this happen. And like I've said, I haven't seen anything significant yet. So
May I ask a question?
absolutely.
When you adopted this in 2020, early before COVID.
Yeah.
So, Laura, when you say
one semester 2020, that was like our pre-implementation phase.
so, earlier you referenced that we're in year 3, not year 7. When you adopted this, was it foreseen that this would be a 7-year commitment to this program and it would be an annual fee? I mean, what was
Well,
the
it was 5 to
intention?
7. I wasn't sure about the annual fee at that point. I don't remember it coming. I know there was an investment in the beginning, but we're 3.5 years later from that point.
So over different periods, we have had the conversation that full implementation takes approximately 5 to 7 years, depending on, where you started, how quickly you're moving. And, I have to compliment our site teams. We're moving, and we're moving fast. I mean, considering where we started, I really think that, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself, but I think 1 to 2 more years, we will be where we need to be. I mean, the progress that we've made, I mean, and maybe I need to do a better job sharing that with you guys. And you should see the behavior matrices, the intervention, the restorative justice circles, the things that are happening at our sites that were not happening before, that are keeping of course we have the other behaviors that we want to focus on, but we're keeping the things that keep students from actually participating in school and being out of class. Those are being reduced significantly, and that will have an impact. But again, we have to stay the course. It's not an acute. It's a long-term type thing. So it's not going to be. We look at it today, and in September we see it. It's over time, but we have seen it over time, and I strongly believe that will continue as long as we stay the course.
When they take the training wheels off, so to speak, and just projecting that the program is successful and we really can measure that, and we get to that point of taking the training wheels off, what are we losing by not paying for the program anymore? To Noah's point, I think maybe what your question was is, can we be implementing this on our own now? What are we losing by not subscribing?
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
understand
we're
there's
not
more.
there
The
yet.
coaching.
Yeah.
she
We're
said.
losing the coaching. We're losing the moving forward from where we are. We know, but we don't know. I don't even say enough. We need the fine tuning and the support of the coaching to move to the next level. Could we do it? Yes. Will we continue to have the exponential growth? I don't think so.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll call.
I had a quick question. Just curious to know, would you say once a month they're coming in? Can you give us some kind of a
Schedule?
frame of reference of how often and how many of your team or the entire leadership team is using this? And maybe that would,
So
help
there
us
are
understand.
4 to 6 coaching sessions for the coaches. The principals attend that, as well as their site coaches. And then there are multiple trainings throughout the year. I will have the schedule, We have to decide whether or not it will be approved before they will release the schedule to us, but I am happy to share that with you. But it's ongoing. I mean, we have a dedicated coach at LACO. If we have a question, I call her on her cell phone. And they're accessible to us that way. But to answer your question in general, without having the schedule in front of me, there are multiple coaching sessions for the principals, and each site has a PBIS coach. They receive that training, and then the teams are trained 3 to 4 times a year as well, plus their monthly ongoing meetings to support the implementation.
And we just had a session as well.
Right.
So for LACO and our representatives to meet with Mrs. Collins Williams and I to go through the data and then to set the, going forward, like that, we just spent a couple hours with them.
I just want to also, you can refresh my memory, Laura, but I recall, if it wasn't last year, it was the year prior, where the district was recognized by LACO for the implementation thus far of PBIS.
Yes.
So they must have recognized some progress on some sort of metrics to be able to acknowledge the district for achieving that.
They are very impressed with our implementation and the growth that our teams and our district has shown, and that's why she agreed to make that video for us to see. And they really would like to continue working with us because they know that we're doing good work. They actually held some spots for us because I said we had to have this conversation with the board before we could get the contract approved, but they're crossing their fingers that we can continue our work as well.
Thank you.
A little bit like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, though, because you're paying them and then they give you an award.
Yeah, but we haven't paid them yet, and they've been working with us.
Okay, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Myself. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item D.
I move for the approval of the NASDAQ amendment number 5.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus and Dr. Stern. Do you have a question?
Thank you. Yes. Hi, Mr. Mead. Thank you for joining us. I just think this is going to be something that our community will feel and see. So thanks for your time in, preparing this shift. And, please, if you could just let us know, how things will be a little bit the same and a little bit different in regard to the security at our schools this coming year.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. This is an exciting time right now in our cooperation and partnership with the city. That's a big thing of what we're doing here is we're staying committed to community and safety and, having the same level and quality of security, not just until 4 p.m. when our kids are gone, but we all agree, like our community and our kids and our families are all part of the same thing, right? So the safety vision doesn't end until those gates are closed and everybody's off and home. So that's really what we're doing here. One of the things I really want to emphasize is our BHUSD security officers, we love them, we appreciate them. At all the sites, you see the kids giving them fist pumps and high fives. One thing I want to emphasize right now is their roles at their sites haven't changed. Now, there's been a small shift. Some of them are starting 15 minutes later because to account for 8:30, so some of them are arriving at 7:15 instead of 7. But basically, all of those awesome partners that we have at the sites in the mornings, the afternoons, all the same. So there's no change to that mechanism because it's so valuable. But what is happening is we're trying to take existing resources. We're going to have to add to accommodate 4 open sites, 7 days a week, 332 days a year. That is a major change. Typically you're not going to find Hawthorne open to the public. At least it has been. And, one of the things that's happening is not only are we opening up our sites to the community, and I was thinking about that, because there's a little bit of a COVID triangulation here. They kind of shuttered and we're moving back. And I was just talking to some of our city partners, adventure camps, teen camps, things like those are growing fast. They were just telling us we might have 90 more kids at Horace Mann. This is great news, right? People are coming back. It's starting to rebuild. So we have to have these levels of security. And they were very emphatic. We may, at most sites, we're using 2 gates to release kids, partially per congestion, partially the number of kids, just to keep it safe. So the idea here is Monday through Friday, take the resources we already have. And yes, we've had to add some days, but we're not adding new people. It's the same people. We've had to make some shifts. Most of the big shifts have been with NASDAQ. We're trying to keep some armed guards longer through the day. right? So typically they've ended at 4. But we're looking at the same level and quality. So that's really a big difference. Is no big difference Monday to Friday in terms of who's there, but how long our NASTech are there. So we tried to be cost effective, but also strategic and effective with the plan. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. Talk to all the sites. We've got plans, and obviously it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but all in all, we're feeling good about it. The big difference, the reason for the amendment, the big reason is for the weekends and for the additional days. For example, this year in this amendment, it's ultimately going to be less than what you're seeing here. For example, July, we didn't really deploy this plan. So it includes July in the cost. We did have a couple guards here and a guard at Hawthorne, but the majority of these resources weren't deployed in July. Also, the times that you see here, NASTech is a great partner in this. They are adjustable, and that's by design, because with the city, they've asked that we're open. At first they were saying till sunset, which is challenging. Like, are we changing it every 2 weeks? Like, how's that going to work? And we found a nice model that I think is going to satisfy everybody. But one of the things you'll notice is one of the shift times, I think, says 8:30. And if it's not on yours, it's on mine. 8:30 would be in the month of July, right? Because it's so late, and we're going to stay open maybe till 8 in that month. And it's just kind of easy to accommodate like those. That's why you see TBDs and things like that. The number of hours will stay the same, but it'll shift depending on the time of the year and our agreement with the JPA. But that's going really well. So that's the vision. And I'll tell you, we went back to the lab on this thing. Like, how do we make it effective and safe, but at the same time cost effective? And so even since we spoke to the board, we've tried to reduce where possible without reducing the overall safety and quality and the resources. So feeling pretty good about it right now. My plan can get pretty granular, but kind of big picture. It's mostly about like using your resources effectively and giving all of our community, school and larger community, this same level.
Thank you. I really appreciate
Sure.
your time on this. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you, Mark. I thank you for making security a priority and enhancing the security. I think we all want that. I also really appreciate the time and creativity you've put behind this to be effective and efficient with the dollars so that we can get the most out of it and then provide not only the school district but the community at large as they're using our facilities and making certain that they have safe spaces. And that's just it's a priority right now, and it's hard to come by. So I'm really, really thankful that we have it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
That is for consent. Thank you, Mr. Mead. Reports. Ms. Lifson.
Okay, keeping things a little analog today with no visual aids, but in recent news in the district, things have been picking up a little in the past couple weeks. Fall sports practices and tryouts have been starting back up in the past couple weeks and are going on now. Book distributions happened this past week, and reminder, Makeup Distribution Day will be tomorrow, the 9th, from 8 to 11 at the high school in the textbook room. And lastly, today, with the help of our BHHS staff, PTSA, and Link crew, we, I think, successfully executed the Freshman Family Student Parent Orientation Day, which went great. They got their textbooks, got to see the campus, meet people, play some fun games, and connect with the BHHS family. So, yeah, went great.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you to all those students that volunteered to, we have a couple of purple shirts in the back. I'm saying thank you guys to volunteer your time to help the new students at our school. Appreciate that. Dr. Breggy.
Thank you. Just a short report for you tonight. And as that is coming up on the screen, just a quick picture. I don't get to give you kind of the working picture of our cabinet, but we are back and back from summer, and really we're kind of re-energized. We've looked at the way that we conduct our meetings, and I feel like there's been really good teamwork, some good feedback on to make these meetings the most effective that they can. So I wanted to start my presentation with a thank you to my team, who is continually keeps lifting the floor, so to speak. We work really hard throughout the year and the summer, and this has been a lot of planning that's happened. In fact, this is probably the most planning that we've ever done, but research will tell you that the more you plan, the better that you plan, the better that the year is going to be. So we're really ready for a very exciting school year, which we look forward to kicking off at our opening day on Friday. A thank you to Mr. Seaman, his department, just education services in general, for hosting our new teachers and our new staff, which we have been able to do last week and into this week. And thank you to the city for providing the trolley that has been just a great venture for our new staff to not only see sites in the city, but then to also go to each of our schools. We want to capitalize on the boutique school district. It's nice that even our new teachers that are not teaching in our other schools to visit our other schools. We're one school district, one mission, one vision, and it's great that we have this opportunity that we can actually do a tour of all of our schools for all of our new staff. Just some summer transformations that we've been reporting about. And I want to thank Mr. Haas and his team. As you can see in this picture, there's restored flooring. There's been times where the buildup of wax over decades has been pulled, and there's been new ceiling and heavy cleaning, new base molding. You can see there's some new student safety devices there, it's really great on some of the vehicles that are traveling in, and it's just a great safety. As you can see it, it's modern, and it's a real visual approach to some of the safety, but with floors being waxed, new paint, I feel like it's in many ways it's kind of a grand reopening, and I just want to thank Mr. Haas, because this time of the year is a difficult time. People are taking vacations, people are out, but I know that without taking a vacation this summer, I've been here every day, and I've watched you and your team, and I've been here on weekends, and I've seen you and your team. It's been 7 days a week, and I think our facilities look better than they ever have, so I'm going to thank you for that. We have spent a great deal of time, and I want to thank the board again for a strategic planning session that really kicked us off to a really productive time with our administrative staff. We spent 2.5 full days on the strategic plan, and we look forward to updating you with the work that we've done, which was launched by our board in our conversations that we had at our meeting a couple of weeks ago. We look forward to sharing that with you. I have some draft information I'll be sharing with the staff on opening day, but it's in alignment to what we have spoken about, and it really does involve every single employee in our school district, and how everyone is connected to student learning. And so we are going to make a valiant effort with some goals that we have. And I will even say that with this type of planning that we've had with all of our schools, this is the most aligned that I've ever seen a school district become when it comes to looking at what are their expected goals, but also, even though we vary in how we're going to get there, we have a really visual roadmap of how we're going to do that, and we look forward to sharing that with the board. So I just want to thank the board again for your involvement. This couldn't have happened without your feedback and your input, and it's valued. And we spent 2.5 days talking about the feedback that you've given us, what that looks like, and how we can then share that with our staff to help move our district forward towards educational excellence. So thank you again for that. Just one event that was a big night for us in the city of Beverly Hills, and that is National Night Out. And this is a time where the partnership between the community and our police departments is kind of a spotlight, and it's a celebration and a way for us to recognize our police force. We, as last year, were in full force. In fact, out of all the organizations in Beverly Hills, we have been told that we had the highest attendance, and that the number of people that we brought in was higher than any other group. And as I've mentioned before, we had new staff that attended. We had former staff. We had alumni. We had people that work in the school district, people that have retired. This was a full night. It just didn't end. Like, it was like 3 full hours of people coming by, sharing stories, hugs, hellos, people ready for the new year to start. But it's just another indication that the relationship that we have with the city is the best that I've ever seen it. And the police department, again, thank you to Sergeant Newman, who was in charge of the event and worked very collaboratively with Ms. Starkins and then the rest of our team. You made it easy for us because we were able to show up and do what we do best. But as the board knows, we were not only there, it wasn't just about showing up. We were actively engaged with our community. And I wish people could see it if they didn't go, but it's one of the best nights of the entire year. So I just want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank Ms. Starkins and also Sergeant Newman as well, who has the responsibility to kind of pull this off. And we did with great fashion. I was so proud the entire night of the display that we had for BHUSD last week. And other than opening day, which is, there's a lot to do before Friday, but we're going to get there. It's been a very busy week, and so I just want to thank everyone, our staff, who's already returning back into our schools and getting set up for that first day of school. We're excited, and we're ready to start. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Berge. Any comments? No? All right, fabulous. Thank you, colleagues. Moving on. Okay.
No, I have a couple.
Rochelle?
Okay, just a couple. Dr. Berge, out of curiosity, just for the information, when you get with the cabinet kicking off and so on, how many administrators in cabinet were you there with? I bet you it was close to 30.
Well, so our cabinet team is, with me, we have 11, and then we have 30 with our full leadership team, and everybody was there. Every single person attended. So, we're very excited about that. So people know that that's a priority. People know that it's important to be there because the focus has changed. A lot of times we use that time to be quite transparent. It was kind of getting ready for the next school year. This is a complete planning session. And so while there were a number of things that we wanted to get to that we usually do every year at these meetings, that has to wait because we did a complete focus on the strategic plan, and that's never happened in any school district that I've been in. But it was a very, an extreme focus on the plan the entire time, and that just showed the priority that we have because it really is what guides us for the entire year. And so we will have to make up for some lost time for some of the other things that we do, but this was a priority.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say, I think it's so gratifying to see this year now after last year and really launching this, that we can build on it. And as well, going to National Night Out and seeing everybody there and the school district really shining at National Night Out. Even though it's National Night Out, it really was fire, police, and schools, and you really felt it. And I was reflecting on it. I thought, why is this so amazing? Because I know we hadn't done it before, other than last year. But I think part of it is also that it's a BHUSD event. It's not a high school or any of the individual schools. It truly is a BHUSD event, and everybody comes together, and it's just very joyful, and everybody's really, there's no agenda except to connect as a community and to really shine. And I just really appreciate all the work that went into making that happen, doing it again this year, and for all of your team and your leadership team to be there and be so present and engaged. I think it's such a gift to our community, and for anyone that was there, that if they weren't in the schools, they really see our school district really in community, and it's just a really, really great opportunity, and it felt really great. And I'm really excited about the school year to start, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, that you've done over the summer, all the planning, and really moving this, staying committed to this process. I really appreciate it, and I have to thank Ken for all of his work this summer. It's really, the schools do look fantastic, and it's been a lot of work, so thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Ed Services, and we have an information item only. Mr. Seaman?
Yes. Good evening, Board of Education. We every year do have to post just for public information and knowledge, but it's exciting each year, every time I'm able to come up here to do the information only item around the college and career access pathways between us and Santa Monica College. It's exciting to highlight the increases. So if you recall, even a year ago during the summer, when we first started our board planning for our strategic plan last year, one of our goals was to increase our pathways into SMC with the dual enrollment by 1 to 2 additional pathways. And so just for those in the community, if you're following along, and if you're able to go to just within the document, the attached document, to page 19 and start to scroll through, we not only beat that goal, but we beat it by 3 to 4 different pathways. And so in years past, if you have ever seen me talk about the college career access pathway, we had photography and we had broadcast journalism. And just over the last year and a half, we've really worked hard with a lot of our teachers here at the high school administration, Ed Services, Santa Monica College, CTE advisory, and we've increased that not only to business, our audio production, our fashion, and our animation. So we've added 4 additional pathways, which is unique and different going into this fall. And so I want to thank Tassema Gardu for our business pathway and working with SMC, Alex Brightman, Michael Fetterman, Bella Ivory, Romeo Carey, and Tim Briggs as well. Tim and Romeo were the pioneers in this getting and helping us create this dual enrollment agreement with SMC, and now we've continued to expand it. And we're going to continue the conversation with our coding pathways and our other pathways throughout the high school. And what dual enrollment means for the community that's paying attention is our students are able to take classes here at BHUSD and receive transcripted Santa Monica College credit by our teachers. So they're sitting and learning from Romeo Carey to Tim Briggs to Bella Ivory directly in our pathways, and receiving not only high school graduation credit, but they also then get another grade and a transcript from SMC, which helps them. It's free college credit, basically. So I do want to thank Christy Bond as well, our head counselor, high school administration, Cindy Dubin, Ed Services, and SMC staff. And that's it. So thank you guys. And thank the Board of Education, too, for always supporting us in trying to expand our opportunities for our students here at BHUSD.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions, colleagues? I hear a no. Thank you very much for the update.
Just a big thank you.
A big thank you from Mrs. Minturn.
And congratulations on
We just said thank
crushing
you.
your strategic plan goal.
Maybe crush all goals with such vim and vigor.
How are we going to exceed that next year is going to be a big...
We might as well put Beverly Hills University on our wall. Moving on to business and finance. Mr. Guzman.
Well, good afternoon, Board President Margot, members of our board, community members. So today I wanted to go ahead and present on the 45-day budget revision. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you can enable the screen sharing, please. It's 1 second while that comes up. So, just 1 second while okay, there we go. Okay, so now it's one of these things. All right. So, if we could have the screen, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Again, we're presenting today on the 45-day budget revision. Again, I just want to thank the entire team that has helped us throughout this budget process. It's really a team effort. And in regards to the budget financial reporting cycle, I just wanted to clarify, like, as you can see here in this cycle that we have, we're currently in August, and this is the time when you would do a 45-day revision if it applies to your district. So what is this? What's the 45-day budget revision? Why are we doing it? So the 23-24 State Budget Act has been signed, and it did include changes from what we anticipated that the budget was going to be. So sometimes what that happens, where the governor, through negotiation with the legislature, make changes to what they told us the budget numbers were going to be. We then come back and update our numbers to reflect those same changes. We have 45 days to do so if they are material changes. If they're not material, then we don't have to do it. But in this case, I looked at it and I considered it to be material. So we will, I'll be presenting on that. Basically, this was the main change. Everything else is going to look the same. But it's a little weird this time around because the change was for last fiscal year. So last year, we were given two grants, the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant and the Learning Emergency Recovery Grant. So those two grants were given to the district. We were given two initial allocation amounts. Then when the economy started kind of going downwards and interest rates started rising, the California economy was affected by it, and we were told you need to revise those numbers downward. We did so in accordance with the best estimates at the time. Well, things were negotiated through the legislature where they said, no, we can't walk that back. In some cases, we've received some of the money, so it's like we would have had to give it back. So they wanted to avoid all this, so what they ended up doing was they said, okay, go ahead and fund it at a certain rate, and they reduced other places as well. So essentially for us, it represents a $1.1 million increase in our state revenues that on the restricted side. So all the numbers stayed the same other than the revenue number. So what that does is that our ending fund balance looks a little bit better at 22.7. Now, mind you, these are the estimated actual numbers. These will change. So in September, when I come to you again, you'll see different numbers. Because we'll be able to close the books, and there's like at least a couple of different things that won't happen this year that we'll have to move to next year. 23-24, the revenues did not change. Those will stay consistent to what we presented to the board. The expenditures didn't change as well. The only thing we did do was we looked at some movement in the restricted account and the unrestricted account, where we're moving some things around to free up some unrestricted funds. Some of the AMIM grant funds were directed towards security, so that's going to help with the burden that it created not burden, but the expense that it created on the unrestricted side, which is the side that really impacts us. It impacts cash and everything like that. So it's just some administrative things that we're doing there. At the end of the day, the ending fund balance combined, when we look at our reserves in 23-24, is now at 18.5 million. Now, again, I anticipate that to change once we do the 22-23 unaudited actuals and we are able to quantify precisely where we ended the year. We're in the final stages of closing the books, so that should be here very soon. So the next steps, again, is the approval of the unaudited actuals on September 12th, and then you can expect some further revisions at first interim for 23-24 as we revise our budget assumptions and assess our actual expenditure data as of that point. And we're also going to continue to monitor property taxes. And that's about it. So to wrap it up, really, we just saw some increases in the AMIM grants, the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, and the Learning Recovery Emergency Grant. So those were the two that we saw some increases on. So at this point, any questions?
So will we really see the difference when you do the unaudited, when you do the unaudited actuals when they come?
Yes, you'll see a difference to
This year's spending.
Yes, to 22, 23, and then some of this year's spending. We're also working. We're actually really happy. Dustin and I have been looking at, along with Laura as well, and really all the cabinet team. We've been looking at, well, with these extra funds, what can we do? How are these best spent? One thing about these one-time dollars is they're one-time, and so they go away. And it's so difficult sometimes to spend one-time dollars because you get excited, you get something, and then it's like gone next year. So it's like that's the difficult piece. But we are working on making sure those expenses are spent appropriately. Now those are they are restricted dollars, so they have to be spent in a certain way. So we're already kind of planning that. So by the time we get to first interim, most of those funds will already be assigned, and you'll see the expenditure side go up because then we'll assign those funds. At this point, though, we don't really necessarily have a plan for all of it. We just have a plan for some of those funds. But rest assured, we will make sure these get spent on time and appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
With regard to the reserves increasing by about 1%, do you expect that to hold?
Well, it depends.
Maybe yes, maybe no. Or I could put it another way. Last year at this time, did you also have an increase, and did it hold?
So we did have an increase last year, but it was a little bit different because last year we received some one-time funding as well. It was kind of a similar situation, but we did have some monies in our budget for 22-23 at the time that we did our budget that we were hoping to get expended that didn't get expended. And so now those will have to move to 23-24. So that's where I do think in 23-24 you might see some increases in expenditures. So it really depends. It's hard to say at this point early on. We're also, getting all our accounts, all our staffing, making sure those match up to what the budget had. So there's a lot of work there. So by first interim, you'll have a much clearer picture of what the budget really looks like.
Thank you again for your presentation, Raphael. I just have one question. Is there a time limit on the money that we got, this 1.1 million, and when it has to be spent, or is it something we can hold on until within that, even though I know it's restricted in that certain area?
Yes, so they do have some conditions on expenses. So for example, the arts, music, instructional materials, discretionary block grant, it's a mouthful to say. Those can be expended up to 25-26, but we don't anticipate to take that long to expend those funds. And I believe that, and let me just check here, I don't want to speak off or give incorrect information, but I believe the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant holds the same the same amount of time for us to expend those funds. Let's see here. Yes. Well, actually, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, that one you could spend all the way through 27-28, but most likely they'll be spent next year. We have some plans for some of those funds.
I appreciate your explanation of the 1.1 million coming in 22-23, because I was trying to figure out, and then I looked at the revenue coming from the state, I thought it was strange that it would be there, and I was looking for 23-24. And
yes. What the material impact was on your beginning fund balance now for 23-24, and that
it has
changed.
An impact then,
yes. But it was last year. It's awkward the way, because usually it's in the new year that they assign revenues, not kind of backwards the way this was.
Thank you again for your report.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you.
Looking forward to September. See you in September.
No, it was just
information only. Okay, moving on to 11A. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion for approval of amendment number 5 to the agreement with SVA Architects to provide design services for miscellaneous reconfiguration upgrades at Beverly Vista Middle School.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Wells and Dr. Stern. Any questions?
I would like that explained, why that was necessary, if possible, to the design services. Why did we need to do that?
I'd be happy to explain. This project is in relation to the Beverly Vista Middle School modernization that we did. Originally, when SVA was brought on, they they put together DSA drawings, which is typical of most of our projects. In this case, though, it's kind of unique because we had to work with the city when it came to the ADA accessibility to the parking lot. So we had thought we had our design complete. This is before my time. And then recently, as the work was being completed, and we realized we needed a city permit to do the work, their conditions of what we needed to do on the site varied from the DSA conditions or the design. So for the past few months, SVA has been working with the city and the contractor to come up with a design that works for both DSA and the city. And that involved a lot of communication and going back and forth. And finally, they decided, well, we do need to start building for some of this work because it was a lot of work. And that's basically the gist of why we need to do this. It wasn't part of their original contract.
Thank you.
Did code or regulation change from the original drawings, or?
No, well, it may have, but that's not why we had to do it. It stemmed from the city requirements, which wasn't accounted for at the beginning of the project.
Okay, which is separate though from building code.
Yes.
Okay,
and public contract code. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
You didn't say how much it was going to cost.
Always says that.
$5,460, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Karat. 12A.
I will move for the approval of an agreement with Color New Company for the painting services at Beverly Hills High School.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I didn't have a question. I just had a comment on this. Ken, you don't need to get up for this one. I was at the high school the other day on the third floor patio, and I said, this looks different. There's something different up here. And then after that, I saw this item on the agenda. So just know that when we approve this tonight, I think the work is going to be done basically upon approval right now, right? Are they still painting, or they're even done with that now?
There's some minor touch-ups.
Minor touch-ups. That's how good this guy is. We vote yes, and it's painted. It's who can beat that? So thank you. No, I appreciate it. Because of the time frame and when the work needed to be done, the work got done prior to our students getting back to school, and it looks so much brighter up there now. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Ken. I know it was asking you all last year, and it was about timing and how you could work that in, and it was right after Conheim, and I was really hoping that we could get this done, and I can't wait to see it because I just know it's going to make a huge impact on the experience for the students. So thanks for getting it done. I really appreciate it.
And Ms. Wells, when you see it, you'll notice it immediately because it's just a third floor patio, totally different vibe. I don't know, nothing was moved,
right,
but everything is painted.
Right.
So.
I just always envisioned, because we painted the inside, and the inner courtyard is really an inside-outside feeling, that it would continue that feeling of all the work that was done inside to refresh, that now it would extend out there. So,
Sophia, did any of the kids say, wow, look at this refresh?
A couple remarked on the necessity for sunglasses at this current point with how bright it is. But yeah, overall, everyone is satisfied with the upgrades.
Of course, the freshmen didn't know any different because they hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well said. Okay, moving on to policy.
I will move for the approval of the second reading of the board policy 5131.8, mobile communication devices.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Marcus and Dr. Stern. I will add, do we have any corrections to add to this from the original published agenda version?
Yes, thank you for asking. So there is one change that you can see, and I didn't make myself a copy, so you have it. It is under the TK through 8 section, and it is the
second incident.
The second incident, and it's the change is only from that the front office will go ahead and take the phone. It will be given to the administrator, and the parent will pick up, which is what was in the original the first time around. It just was somehow eliminated when all of the revisions were put into the plan. So I wanted you see that minor change, which is just something that we will add.
One, was it that the student could pick it up after school, or that the parent would have to come? I know it's the parent on the third time. On the second time, is it the student that can pick it up in the office after school?
Yeah, so it is that the parent will need to pick up the mobile device after the second offense.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much for your, excuse me, your time in preparing this. I know it was a big lift, and it's something that I think the whole community is anticipating. So I'm really glad that we're able to get it done by this point, and excited to see it implemented and see. I'm sure it's going to have a positive impact on our students. So thank you for your time on it.
I'd just like to mention that my son was at the school today registering the kids, or getting the orientation, and he was telling some of the people around him about the mobile, and the parents were totally in support of this whole. They were so thrilled to see this policy going into effect that it was amazing. And he just reported that to me, and I didn't, and unsolicited, he said, "Mom, you just can't believe how happy they are to see it."
I'm also really happy to see this, and I think that it's important to realize that since we are creatures of habit, and we're just starting this change, or I mean, it's not a huge change, but it's a little bit of the change, especially for the high schoolers. I think that there could be potentially some frustration with, there are some kids or parents who are used to regular chatting during instructional periods, and I totally respect that. But I also want to thank the older students who I actually met with and spoke to about this, and some of them said to me, I'm really hoping that there are more rules, because I personally find it very addictive. When Dr. Stern, when I have the phone in my pocket, I am more likely to leave class and go to the bathroom just to check in. And these are straight A students. So I think that we have really done a service in a way to help kids with something that we know is destructive in a lot of ways. Also, I hope that for those who may be dissenters on this policy, or who are feeling upset that we did restrict it a little bit, is that, I wanted to mention that the Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Vivek Murthy, recently came out with an advisory, as many of you may be aware, and that was in 2022, actually this year, saying that that overuse of social media carries a profound risk of harm to the mental health and well-being of children and adolescents. And many of you know that, but I just want to restate that, because these rules are not arbitrary and they are not to be punitive. It is merely that we are trying to safeguard the well-being and instructional time of our students. So I hope everyone understands that, and it might be a difficult transition. Thank you.
I had a couple of comments, and I don't know if my colleagues will join me on this, but in reviewing this again after it was revitalized, I'm wondering, maybe you can answer this, Dr. Breggy, what's the purpose of the second incident? Why does there have to be 3? Can't we just have 1 and 2 incidences? I mean,
there can be any number of incidences. I think
it seems like 2 and 3 are pretty identical in both cases, and I'm not going to say totally identical, but relatively identical. And it seems
the difference
would be first and second is identical.
Yeah, the difference would be in the third offense that there's also a detention that goes along.
I don't want to get rid of the third offense. I mean, I want to turn the third into the second. If you get what I'm saying. That's and I'll ask my colleagues that too. We take it for what it is, and it has 3, but then when we think about it, why 3? Why can't it just be 2? The first one's a warning, the second one is more action. So
I would propose respectfully, this is an incredible change. And working with our adolescent group, it is going to be a very large change to where there's going to be, I think that this could look like a gotcha too quick. And I think this is a good place to start if this is the direction of the board. I worry about, this is the change. It is an addiction. It is, I don't think that it's unreasonable for a middle school student to have a second warning, especially that their parent will have to come pick up the phone. That is quite an imposition, an inconvenience for a parent to have to come. So I would recommend to leave this.
I appreciate the response.
Sure.
I had to ask.
Sure.
Couple of other comments. If anybody has not seen the movie The Social Dilemma, it's available on Netflix. I'd highly recommend it. It addresses kids' addictions to social media and the damage of it, and it is very, very moving. It's a docudrama. Also, I was recently informed that China is proposing new rules that would limit minors to no more than 2 hours a day on their cell phones. The restrictions aim to combat internet addiction as the country tries to cultivate good morality and social values among children and adolescents. Here, so it's becoming a worldwide conversation. Children's addiction to cell phones, and I'm glad that we're doing something about it. Of course, in the back of my head, there's always more we can do, but I know you don't want to get too punitive off the bat, but perhaps we can revisit this in a year and see how effective.
I was just going to say, we're instituting this, and we are going to kick it off, and we can see how it's going to work, and then we can tweak it after if we find that there's something about it that we would like to change. But this is the kicking off place, and I think rather that we're reading it this way tonight, we can always revisit it and make a change if we think it needs a change later on.
Policies and budget, that is what we do.
I would agree, because I know that, I was looking at the different school sites and the information that's already gone out to parents. So in many ways, this is already starting to get incorporated and communicated to the parents. And it was so important for us to have this at the start. So I'd hate to have a hiccup at the start, because it's so important for us to be clear as we start to implement this. And I want to thank you all. I thank the board as well for this, and Dr. Brady for crafting this. I think it's really important, and I'm really thankful that we're supporting the mental health and wellness of our students and teaching and supporting good practices for their learning. So I'm really looking forward to being able to take this step.
Okay, just one moment, colleagues, because we have to read the changes into the record so we can accept this amendment as a friendly amendment.
Do you want me to read it? Like every line.
Okay, so just read that part?
Yeah.
The last bullet too, or just this one?
Just read this bullet down.
Okay. Okay, so the following, Mrs. Wells, did you make the motion on this one?
I made the motion.
Mrs. Marcus? Okay, so I'm just going to ask for a friendly amendment to approve the second reading with the changes as indicated. The first paragraph that says TK through 8 grades, TK through 8 grades, the last word limitation, we're striking the S. The paragraph under second incident on that first page, third bullet point will read, staff will document the policy violation and the device will be held by the administration until the end of the day and /or as determined by the administrator. The device will be held until picked up by a parent and or guardian at the end of the day. And the final change is second page under instructional time, take out the S and limitations. So, Mrs. Marcus, do you accept those?
At the high school, let me ask you, to confiscate the cell phone on the second incident, return the device to at the end of the class period. That's different than the one that we're doing in K8, right? Right.
It is. It's
right,
and it's due just to the size of the high school and the staff not having access to a main office.
So, Mrs. Marcus, do you accept those changes? Mary, you did the second on that? Dr. Stern, do you agree?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. All in,
I also just like to thank Judy for really championing this policy and really bringing this to the board. I really feel like this was really your calling this to our attention. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
This might be a little start to behavior and rules and following.
okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a cell phone policy. Thank you. So put the phone down. Moving on to reports. Did you say agenda? Yeah.
Really good or really
Yep. Communication from board members. Oh, Ms. Kraushauer, any public comment? No. I love the summer. Okay. Ms. Lifson, any more comments under communication from board members?
I have a few.
I'm going to go around. Mrs. Wells. Thank you. Mrs. Wells?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mesher?
Today I attended one of 3 new school orientations that I'll be attending during this week. And it was at the high school for my incoming freshmen, and it was great, informative, smooth sailing. So a big thank you. You know I like my big thank yous for the high school team. I'm so looking forward to what this year has to offer. I know we have a lot on our plate, but I strongly believe that last year was a formative year, a lot of foundation setting, and I'm very looking forward to what this year will bring for all of us. So thank you in advance.
Thank you. Mrs. Marcus?
A couple of things. I would like to just say that a few weeks ago, the very revered principal at one time and teacher at El Rodeo School, Frank Scott, passed away. I had the occasion to work under that gentleman. I guess it gives me my age away a little bit, but he was wonderful. He was very well loved by the teachers, by the parents, by the kids. He really went all out for, and he really loved the education, and he loved El Rodeo School. So I think there'll be an obituary for him tomorrow in the Beverly Weekly. So look for it. I was contacted by many of the old teachers, excuse the word, former teachers who taught at El Rodeo, and they are all very much in sadness that he passed away. I would like to just remind everybody that though we might have another meeting, please mark your calendars for September 10th, the Wellness Day at the Roxbury Park. It's going to be a wonderful event, and our own school is participating with the Bulldog and the Norman Aid Centers, and I would really like everybody to, those in the audience that are listening, please mark that on your calendar. I would like to also shout out and say thank you to Nancy and Jim Krasny. They called me a few weeks ago and said that they had all this unbelievable camera equipment that they didn't know what they were going to do with, and they were going to have people come, and they didn't want to give it away. And he called me to ask me what I might think of contacting the school. And I would like to thank Tim Briggs, who took it upon himself to go up there. He had to make 2 trips to pick up some of the most incredibly expensive equipment for the photography class and for cameras and things like that. And I would just want to publicly thank Nancy and Jim Krasny for donating that to the school district. I haven't seen it, but it must have been good because Tim went back a second time to get the rest of it. And last but not least, I would like to just mention that as school starts on Monday, I'm counting down to the days when we'll be going to El Rodeo next year. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is our last year without having to wonder and answering the question. But next August, we will be going to El Rodeo. So I am counting the days, and I'd like to mention that. And last but not least, school starts on Monday. I want to wish everybody a successful school year, a wonderful year, the students, the parents, the teachers, all the administrators, just everybody that has something to do with the schools, have a great year. And last but not least, on Sunday morning, this coming Sunday, there'll be some activities at the 2 schools to kick off the Horace Band and Hawthorne, and I look forward to attending those, and I'm sure they will be very crowded with excited new parents and so on, and other parents that are there, so I hope to see them all there. So that's my report for tonight.
I think it's been a wonderful summer. I think a lot of people had a great deal of rest and relaxation. And I also want to wish all the students a really happy new year, starting on Monday. I think that there are some challenges ahead, but for the most part, I think that the community is really thriving. I know this summer a lot of us have read the book Lessons in Chemistry, and my oldest son was one of them and has really enjoyed it. And I wanted to remind you of the Human Relations Commission joint effort with the public. with the author at the library on August 27th, and I'm sure there'll be more information about that, but that's really an exciting opportunity. And I really enjoyed also attending the night out the other night, and it was great to see our great community and how we are all so united in the different services that we offer in our city, and it felt very good and very cohesive, and I was really proud to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Couple of things tonight. We quietly approved a personnel reports that included a couple of district mainstays, I would say, that did not get a chance to be celebrated in the spring when we usually celebrate our retiring personnel. One of them was Susie Wallach, perhaps one of the most famous office personnel in the district, whether you went to El Rodeo or not, or then BV, everybody knows Susie. And she has retired, and we will miss her greatly. And we thank her for her, I think, 40-something years of service. The other one is Miss Katina Valens, our instrumental music teacher at Beverly Vista, who 2 of my 3 children had the pleasure of having, and those 2 actually, it's the third one that did not have her that is the musician, but that's just irony, right? But Miss Valens was a remarkable teacher, and before she left, I got to shoot an episode of Now No One Knows with her, which I was debating whether I should show it or not, but if you guys want to see me really flub up the violin, I will show it, but because it's supposed to showcase the teacher, not me, so it's a quandary. But it is worth the cat scratching that you will hear. But to Miss Valens, who has served our district well over a decade in that position and has sent many promising musicians up to the high school, an incredible teacher. Music or not, she was an incredible teacher, and she will be missed, and the best to her in her new venture, wherever that may be. I also wanted to share a couple of things. I'm very excited. Next Thursday, Concerts on Cannon, featuring the group that I perform in, 6 to 8 over at the Beverly Cannon Gardens. I know a lot of you have said you'll be there. It'll be great to see everybody. And it'll be a little warm at the beginning of the show, but it'll cool down. But it's going to be a hot night, literally and figuratively. And final thing is, have to wish my wife a happy anniversary, which is tomorrow, our 26th anniversary. So, and it does not fall on a board meeting day, which is a good thing this year. So to the Queen Commissioner, Vice Chair, happy anniversary. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Pam, am I signing anything? Good to go?
Thank you.